Hello, Jim McCory with GeekDad.com. Kind of an actor question. Actors always fill in the gaps in the backstory in their head of stuff that informs the character that isn't in the script and that we never see. What is, all y'all can answer this, what is something that you know about your character that we don't know?
I think that's like a all never tell kind of moment, right?
It's on you, man.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I don't know.
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I kind of am on board with you that I think to some degree, I mean, this is almost like the way it is as being an actor in general. Some things, you know, certain things you want to share and certain things you don't. I think to some degree, it's almost nice having certain parts of the character that are intimate. And ultimately, at the end of the day, these guys do a good job of fleshing out the tones that they want you to see better than we ever could. That's one of the things when I was just doing the interview with you guys, you two and Kevin and the Russos, and they were just talking about how they form these stories and form these arcs. And you really think these things, I'm kind of deviating from the question, but it just feels worthy to bring up because it blew my mind. I've been doing these for a long time now, and we were having an interview, and they were talking about how they were going to a meeting, and sometimes you think with these movies, these giant Marvel movies, any big movie where you think there's 1,000 cooks in the kitchen, you assume there's some sort of formula, some algorithm that kicks in and there's 30 people in suits being like, this is what it needs to be. But the truth is, it really is Joe and Anthony and Kevin and Nate in a room mapping out stories for so many characters, so many arcs, and they're making them real. They're making them actual fleshed out arcs and conflicts that are worthy of a film. All the explosions in the world aren't going to make you care, and it's nuts to think that it really comes from a few people's brains. And again, this is not exactly the answer to the question, but I think it was worth bringing up because it blew my mind. Because I've been doing this for a while, and it was nuts to kind of realize it really does start from just a few people.
What was your process like in this film as opposed to Winter Soldier when he's not himself? He's not who Cap knew.
Well, just to piggyback on what Chris said, you know, I think I'm always fascinated about the same thing. It's just, you know, for example, our writers, Christopher and Steven, I mean, it's just phenomenal to me the way that they were able to write a script that gave every character a moment, an arc, you know, an arc, and particularly I think they were the ones that kind of figured the temperature of Bucky Barnes. You know, how much of the guy is back from the first movie, how much of the Winter Soldier's there, and for me, it was just sort of taking it off the page and following them, you know. But a lot of that, I think, is determined in the writing and then also in the decisions that these guys make, you know. And the fun part for me is I never know, you know, where they're going to take it. So.
Trevor Norkey, moviepilot.com. I have a question for Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
So in Age of Ultron, you were all like scared of your powers, and then in Civil War, you started to gain some confidence, but you still could not really control, and you're still terrified of your powers. Do you think Scarlet Witch will ever be able to have any confidence with her, like real confidence with her powers, or do you think this is the peak of her confidence level?
I mean, I think what ended up happening was that she was starting to feel confident, but it wasn't about her powers, it was more about the conflict she had with making a big mistake. But I think what's interesting is every superhero has a weakness, and I've always thought of hers as she's the person who gets in her way, that she's kind of limitless. And so that's, to me, an interesting character trait. I don't know what we're going to do next, but I think of her as being like an incredibly strong, powerful person, and it's also fun because I feel like she could flip either way because of her mind. I think there are a lot of things that could possibly be played with, but I'm not in control of that. But I think this film was a lot about just conflict in general, of what's right, how to use your abilities, or whether you should or not. I think that was consistent theme throughout the whole film. So I think it was just consistent with that as opposed to her being not confident.
She is on a growth arc,
Yeah.
and it is part of her development. It's very tricky with very powerful characters, because unless they have an internal struggle or a flaw that limits them, then they do become limitless, and then the storytelling becomes muddled and not very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, if she could have stopped that fight at the airport and in 5 seconds if she were at the peak of her powers. So it really has to do with her character specifically going on a journey to understand what the limits of her powers are. She makes a mistake very early in the movie that sets her back, and we'll get to see where she goes in Infinity War.
It seems like you have a pleasant problem. It's like, I think after this film, everybody had such a high point. Everybody can carry their own solo film. People are going to be clamoring for Captain America 4 and maybe a War Machine movie, and that'd be a good idea. And how do you deal with that pleasant problem?
Great. Hey, listen, listen, Marvel's, and I've been really talking a lot about this in press, but it really is over the course of I've been doing this for a while now, and it really is nice to kind of step back. In the first couple of years of your involvement of the franchise, you're very internal. You're scared about being the thing that's going to cause it. You're going to be awful, and you're very terrified in a very egoic manner. But as you kind of continue on the journey, you kind of realize how amazing it is what they're doing and what they're accomplishing, and how fortunate you are to be a part of it. This unbelievable interwebbing of stories, and you kind of are just so fortunate to be a part of it. And I say, keep going. Let's keep going. Let's let the wave get bigger and bigger, because it's not stopping. It's not like they're making bad movies. They're making great movies. And if you want to keep putting in this superhero box, you can. But the fact is, it's still good movies. It's good movies that they, especially the Russos, they ground them in such an authentic way. It's real humans, real struggles, real conflict, good cinematic storytelling with like a streak of superhero flavor in it. So I say, keep it going. Like, if you can keep doing it, keep doing it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey